Great, thank you. Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, February 18th. Thank you to the committee who have been flexible as we've had lots of scheduling changes. Thank you to Rep. Nicholas for being flexible and coming so quickly when we asked. Today, we are going to start with an introduction of H 827, an act relating to flooding disclosures when conveying real estate. So Rep. Nicholas, you introduced this. I think there might be a few questions at the end because this is something we dealt with last year. So just trying to understand if maybe there's something we missed. So take it forward.
For the record, Tony Nicholas, Representative Tony Nicholas, I represent Chittenden, I represent Milton in Georgia. My background, I am a licensed real estate broker, and I specifically am a foreclosure specialist. I started working in real estate in 2015, started in foreclosures in 2016, and have continued to work in them until the end of last year, in which I retired from foreclosures. And the reason this bill came, why I put this bill in, because when I deal with foreclosure companies, a lot of times, and especially in the post-COVID era, these properties have sat vacant for years, 3, 4, 5, 6, even longer. In some situations, there's one that I know of that sat 7 years vacant. And because they're foreclosure companies, they've never visited the property. And then we come along and we're ready to put it on the market and we hand them this form and they're like, well, we don't know if it's ever flooded. So we get a lot of pushback. Either they refuse to sign it. Most of the time they just refuse to sign it. And I'm not so concerned about the foreclosure companies. They got plenty of resources. What brought this to mind more was you have a situation where perhaps you have a relative that has lived up here and you're the only heir and maybe you've never set foot on the property. Maybe you haven't set foot on the property in 20 years. And it's quite often, especially, in estate sales, you finally get it. And then you could sit on that property for many years before you actually go to selling it. If you never lived on the property, how do you know if it's flooded? So what my bill proposes is to just allow an option if you've never lived on the property to say that. My concern is like with an heir to a grandma's house or something like that. Well, if they check no, and then they find out it's been flooded, now they're on the hook for that. They've lied. And if they check yes, maybe it's never flooded. And now they're having to deal with the ramifications of, it will significantly drop the value of the property. And what my bill proposes is that it allows a seller to disclose to the buyer that they've never physically lived on the property. And I'm happy with the way the bill is put together because I think it's important. We want people to realize it doesn't mean that you're relieved of liability, but it adds that extra, that extra piece. So, my goal here is everyone should be able to make an informed decision. And I think, if you have a buyer and they know, well, I've never lived on the property, at least they are full force entering into this agreement, taking that risk. That's all I really have. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have questions, but are there any other questions of the committee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just trying to look it up real quick. Because that did come out of this committee.
Mhm.
I could have swore the bill that came out with it did have a wanting kind of what you're talking about. Like, I have no idea.
I don't know.
So
Yeah.
I sent
If you can have a,
when I sent the stuff a couple of weeks ago, I sent you the form, the actual form we use,
yeah.
and then at the BBR, and you will see there is no checkbox there. It's either yes or no.
Just wondering if the underlying bill that created that actually says it was supposed to or not. But I will.
Last year, in fact, I did the presenting on the floor, that I felt like it addressed this issue and the Senate took it all out and went back to the original.
Is that what it was?
Oh, is it, so the Senate?
The Senate changed it and you know what I'm saying? They were, like, we did talk about that the seller would have to disclose, and our FEMA maps are incomplete in some areas of the state, guys.
That's a whole other ball of wax.
I know, you and I have talked about that.
And I mean, it's like, we just bought a piece of property that has the 100-year flood. It's like all all the neighbors came and told us and gave us pictures and all this stuff. So I don't know if the real estate agent ever did anything, but no, I presented on the floor. I don't remember the number of that, but it was just amending.
601.
Page 601.
And I feel like you're asking for the same thing again,
That might very well be.
which I.
Because 106, sorry.
Yes, the house that's in has
The
the Senate.
the Senate went back to the original wording. Because it, like but you said, to the best of my knowledge, this is what I know. I don't even think it had anything to do with if you stepped foot on there or not, but it was just,
So
and I don't think it had anything to do with foreclosures. I think it
So-
was just property being sold.
really quickly, I'm just gonna read the summary because it's a very short summary of it, because it did pass. It's Act 52 of last year. This act amends existing statutes so that it will no longer require that a seller of real property notify a buyer whether the real property is located with a federal emergency, so a FEMA mapped, special or moderate flood hazard area. Instead, the statute will require that a seller of real property provide the buyer with a physical or electronic copy or a digital link of the official flood insurance rate map of the property as published by FEMA. A seller is required to notify a buyer if a map is unavailable. So then that part of the I don't know was removed. And now the seller is required to just provide a map or to
Notice,
say,
yeah, the bill says or notice that a flood insurance rate
Is
map is
unavailable.
unavailable, effective for the community in which the real estate property is located.
okay,
I mean, I'm going by the form,
yeah,
which has a yes or no, and
Right.
maybe that's something that we need to reach out to VBR.
Yeah.
And have them change that form.
well, and so it sounds like what ended up happening is the portion that we had worked on, the I don't know portion, was removed. from the
Okay,
Senate. So that is helpful. Thanks for being part of this committee discussion about it.
and certainly let the Senate, I'll do my best to, I mean, I don't see you guys putting this as its own separate bill. Since it's right for just throwing in something, some other amended, some into like a list of amendments.
Sure.
If you can just let me know, I'm happy to follow up with the Senate when it gets to them.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. If wherever it goes, we'll definitely let you know. Lenore.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking at how it was H-106 as enacted. And it says noted that your other options to notify that a flood insurance rate map is unavailable. So I think that the bargain was, well, the seller should do their due diligence, even if they haven't lived there. They should be able to either call or write to the town clerk or look at the link, look at the FEMA map. And if it's not clear, like you have an ability to say that. So it sounds like they didn't write the form to really reflect how the bill came out. Which kind of makes me feel like it's not an issue of writing new legislation.
Well, yeah, so I think that was when the chair and I had first seen this, we were a little confused. I had talked Trev Nicholas to say what's really the issue? And I think it is a matter of the VB,
Vermont Board of Realtors.
so VBR, that getting in touch with them and saying, is there something that we can update? And so I think that might be, the next step for us.
Yeah, I mean, because, the first thing in my, the foreclosure realm, they're like, we're not gonna sign that.
What happens if you don't sign it?
I don't know. I think it's one of these things where I don't even know if it's really, I think it's just private right of action, I mean, it's a matter of you didn't sign it and then it floods and then that person could sue and say, well, you never told us.
Okay. Are there any other questions, comments?
No.
Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much. I appreciate you coming in. I think it's food for thought.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm curious, because you mentioned that that part was taken out in the Senate.
It must have been, because I
Yeah,
distinctly.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically, I don't know, and I think that the new language was instead, you have to provide the link to the FEMA map or a copy of the FEMA map, or notify that there is none
Available.
available.
No, I had to go down to the Senate and testify in that committee about the bill and they just went back to the original wording. They took out what we worked on.
So, but it's.
Well, there is some, that give notice is underlined, so there was new language. It just wasn't our new
Yeah.
language. Yeah.
So, and it's always helpful to have someone who actually is in the business and understands what's going on.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
let me know if I can do anything more to help.
I might regret saying that. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have. I believe her name is Kai Morris. She is a secure housing coach from the Land Access and Opportunity Board. She'll be joining us so we can continue our conversations on 772, which is the tenant landlord kind of different bills that we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.